Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This is going to be a flea market finds episode from October 4th, 2020, a flea market that I hit, and I picked up a few interesting items. So let's dive right in. First pick of the day is from a dealer that I've gone to several times now. This flea market, he comes back every week, and he's always got some old junk. Well, so I went right over to his table and sure enough, right off the bat, bought something heavy. So had him just keep it underneath the truck for me until I had a chance to circle back by later and get it and bring it to the car. So what I got is a metal box here that was for fuses, but look what's in it. All brass fittings, a ton of them. So he wanted $30 for this box with the contents, and I got him to take 20 because a lot of these fittings in here, I looked at them real quick, a lot of them I have no idea whether or not I'm going to even be able to use them at all. There's some unique ones in here. Some of these look like compression fittings for things I don't even know what they might be for. Some of these are adapters like this. That could be a real crapshoot, but things like these brass plugs, these brass double female type of couplings, brass elbows like this. These are all good things that are usable for working on maybe fuel lines and things like that. And brass fittings are expensive to buy, so if you can get them cheap, there's a coupling the other way. It's a good one. So, anyways, whatever is in here for really odd fittings that I'm not going to end up being able to use, they can just go in a bucket for scrap. Oh, actually, before I move on, I just wanted to point out these weird little fittings here. These all say grab a bag on them. 1/4-inch tube nuts. They're like anodized blue colored, and there's orange ones, 5/16-inch tube nuts. I'm assuming that means tubing nuts, the kind that you would find on like brake lines and stuff like that, where you put the nut over the tubing and then you use a flaring tool and you flare the end of the tube. So it's a coupling. I don't know how much those cost, but I got a bunch of them. Oops. All right, let's move on. The guy who I had bought the Sam's Photo Fax for a Cobra 2000 GTL CB radio had come back, and I had gone through his boxes of books and stuff like that again, and since he'd been there a few weeks now, I knew his prices would have come down or whatever, and he'd be, so I had passed on these initially. He had sold a lot of these, I guess, or some of them anyways, so I decided to take what was left there of these. I kind of passed them over at first because I didn't think they were very useful. They're some kind of periodical called from the 1980s called Secret CB, Confidential Factual Report. But then I noticed it said schematics, etc. So then I look at one and I open it up and I realize it's almost like a technician's notebook style of book that has all kinds of interesting little tidbits in it. How to do different modifications on different model radios, just a bunch of random stuff, but also some schematics. So, I figured, what the heck, I knew I was going to get these cheap, and boy did I. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, So I got the last 9 of these secret CB periodical things that he had, and these 2 books for $4. And the books I picked is the Encyclopedia of Integrated Circuits, a practical handbook of essential reference data. Let's see what year this puppy's from. But I figured if I wanted to get back into messing around with electronics again, design in particular, it might be nice to know a few things. This is 1981, so this is back, well, I'm not going to tell you how old I was when this book came out, but anyways, so, decent reference. There's probably a lot of stuff in here that, talks about, like, how to use different timer ICs and things like that to make different types of circuits. Might be interesting. And the same thing with this. This is also kind of caught my eye. Crystal oscillator circuits, a book just on crystal oscillator circuits. How to make those, and then what do you got here? All right, so this is a letter to Bill from Dawn. Hope this isn't like that Seinfeld episode where it was love letters and the cabin burned down. Oh, this guy must have been a CB aficionado here. Hi, Bill. Because of the added cost of Tom blah 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 buying a 142 GTL and have you mod it, he now wants to keep the cost down on the 148 GTL DX. His answers to your questions are: put on a 10 kilocycle switch in the CBPA position, peak, align, tune, and adjust power, etc. On the clarifier, if it can be done without special tools or without special costs, he wants it maximum up, maximum down. Example, 15 kilocycles up, 10 down, 10 up, 15 down. No K-tone or no Roger beep. No 5 kilocycle switches. You stated it can't be done. Best wishes, Dawn. That's nice. Just a quick note to let you know that this 148 GTL DX is owned by the same guy who had you put the 2 watts in the Jackson and peak it up. So this sounds like this guy was getting radio sent to him by another guy who was an in-between guy. This one's extra full. Oh, this has got a schematic in it. RF Parts Company, a division of Westcom. This is a schematic diagram of a TF1000 frequency counter, along with an RF parts catalog from this company, from RF Parts. Well, alright. I also went through the last of the random electronic junk that he had and found a couple items, and again, because I had seen them there for about 3 weeks in a row now, I finally decided to tell him what I'd be willing to pay for these items as a group, and I ended up getting these 3 items right here for $5, which it might not even be worth 5. But all right, let's start with this item first. This is a Johnson branded antenna mate. So what this is an antenna tuner. When you have an antenna hooked up to a transmitter, there's a relationship called the standing wave ratio, and not to get too complicated, but basically you want this ratio to be 1-to-1. That gives you the maximum gain. In fact, if the ratio is too far out of balance, you can end up damaging your transmitter. So if you have a not too long of a run of coaxial cable and you have a decent antenna, your hookups and everything are good, usually you can have a pretty decent SWR, standing wave ratio. You can measure that with an SWR meter. So what this has in it is it has an SWR meter in it, but it also has built into it what we used to call a matchbox, which is basically a tuned circuit that can be tuned to help bring that ratio, if it's not 1-to-1, to bring it as close to 1-to-1 as possible. So in other words, if you go to 1.5 to 1, it might be perfectly fine. You could run it that way. But if you want to dial it right in, you would use one of these. So that's what this basically is. It's missing, looks like it's missing the knob for the set for the calibration of the SWR meter. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. I haven't decided. I don't know if it's any good. You know, I might have to just sell it for parts or as is. Or maybe I'll keep and play around with it. This is a board from a high gain CB radio. Clearly a mobile, looking by the size of it. What's interesting to me about this board is that this is a brand new old stock board. This has never been installed. And the only thing that was weirder about finding this in a box there was the fact that it was in a box with about 10 more. So I have no idea what model radio this belongs to, and I really don't care. But the reason why I wanted it was because I had seen the high gain logo right there. And at first I thought, well, what the hell do I want that for? You know, I mean, it's old stock, so even though it's never been used, the caps are already, you know, over 20 years old. But then it occurred to me, I have somewhere in my radio collection, I have a DAC Model 9 CB radio that I believe uses a high gain board. And the interesting thing about it is that I had diagnosed the problem on that radio that a shorted driver transistor in the transmit circuit had caused excessive current to flow through one of these little transformers and burnt it open. So I never ended up fixing that radio. That radio, basically, I put it aside and it's been sitting and doing nothing for like 20 years. And I just thought, well, if I want to get back to that at some point, I'm going to want to rob one of these transformers out of a radio. Well, now, not only did I find a radio I can probably rob a transformer out of, I might even be able to find the exact transformer because this is a high gain. It's a long shot, but you know what? What do I care? It only cost me $5 for all of this stuff. And what I really thought was kind of cool was this thing. This is the thing that I probably would have been willing to give $5 for at some point on its own. What this is this is a laboratory model T10A Healy pot. It's a precision potentiometer. So all it is it's a variable resistor. But what's unique about it is that it has a very fine control. So it's a 1 k ohm resistor, and it's 5 watt. The linearity total is plus or minus 0.10%. I don't know what that means, but it sounds impressive. So the idea is that when this is turned all the way up to its max, it's 1,000 ohms, and when it's all the way down to its minimum, it's 0 ohms. But to get there, instead of just being a knob that can go from like 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock, this, basically you keep turning this, and every time this makes one full revolution, this counter counts down. So I thought that was cool as heck, which is why I wanted it. But I think there's something wrong because I don't know if that's an 11 that it's supposed to go to. Kind of like Spinal Tap. All of their amplifiers went up to 11. It's one louder. But I do think there's a problem because when it goes down to 4, 3, 2... Well, that's actually working now. That's weird. This wasn't working, I don't think, the way it should when I was there. Maybe it's working perfectly fine now. The only thing I don't know is whether or not the actual resistance is correct. So, when this is at the 0 position here, I can actually see the number to the right is a 14, which tells me that this scale up here is that is an 11 that I'm looking at next to the 10 right there, and then it goes up to 14. So my first thought was, okay, there's something wrong, that it's not going up any higher. And I now realize, or I'm pretty sure, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, that they just happen to use this mechanism on this, but that it stops at 10 because the potentiometer that's inside here is actually a 10-turn potentiometer that only has a maximum of 10 turns, which coincides with the model number, the T10. T probably for turn 10, who knows. But I looked online, all of the Helipot precision potentiometers that are on eBay, every single one of them is a 10-turn. The other thing that's interesting is I just noticed now, this is Helipot is a division of the Beckman Instruments Incorporated of Fullerton, California and Toronto, Canada. Beckman, back in the day, used to make some pretty decent multimeters and test equipment. So that's kind of interesting, at least it is to me. I worked at a shop quite a few years ago, and the owner purchased Beckman DVMs, and they were pretty good. This next item I spotted, the Boss Dr. Rhythm Graphic DR110, and I immediately recognized it as a electronic drum machine. Basically, it's just a thing to electronically create rhythm tracks so that you can, play along to, I guess, or whatever. I got one of these quite a while back. I thought I got a great deal on that one because I got it so cheap and it worked perfectly fine. And then I came across this one, and I asked the guy, first thing I did was I took it out and I looked at I checked for the battery situation, because it's not unusual to find batteries in here that are all corroded. And lo and behold, still batteries in here, but it doesn't look like they corroded too badly. So I was like, okay, well, that's a good sign. And then to turn this on, if I recall correctly, the switch is right here in the front. So probably dead batteries, but we don't know. So I asked him how much he wanted for it. So how much you want for this? And he says, oh, the tuner? $2. So I got this for $2. He thought it was a guitar tuner. So he must not really looked at it very closely, because it's clearly not a guitar tuner. It's got cymbal. So, like I said, for $2 I definitely wanted to take a chance on it. Well, I found a few batteries, and I've got this output running into my little Fender practice amp. And then you can manually enter in any number of different sounds. Hand clap. Oh, what accent does. But you could also write rhythm tracks and then have them repeat. So it's kind of a neat little thing. I never sold the first one that I got. Reason being is I thought maybe at some point I would actually use something like this to try and make some backing tracks for some of my videos. I never got around to doing it. I'm not a musician, but I do have, I guess you could call me a musician wannabe. I do have some instruments. So anyways, that's all this is all about. And just to get an idea of current values on these. These are actually sold auctions, so not what people ask, because that's not really a good indicator of anything. But what actually is sold for it. This one brought only $30, but it's as is, needs work. Here's one, parts only, $50. Parts only, $50. Parts only, $75. That one came with the booklet and the case. So this looks like this one came from Canada and sold for $106. Here's one, free shipping, $130. So you can see that, it's an expensive little unit. So $2, this I guess we're going to call this the buy of the day that day. This next little group of items I actually bought off the same dealer, but this I bought earlier in the day. He had a price of $5 on this Mitutoyo caliper case. I asked him if he'd take 3, and he did. So I bought this just because sometimes I'll come across a set of calipers, even if they're not Mitutoyo, just have a case to put them in will be better than nothing. And the hinges aren't broken, the snap's not broken, which is a plus. And then he had this there, and I passed on it at first, and then I went back. I forgot what he told me he wanted for a price on this first, and then when I went back later in the day, it was still sitting there. I haggled with him, and I got him to take $35 for this, and I got him to throw in. He had these little packages right here of tiny drill bits. So these are really small drill bits, brand new. So he originally had $3 a piece on these packages of drill bits. Number 38, number 39s, and number 52. So all really small number of drill bits, which there's quite a few of them in here. That's a good deal because these are the ones you tend to break them, the most. And they're so small, you don't want to try and sharpen them. Well, I guess you could, but anyways, this is the thing that initially I didn't want to pay the big money he was asking. But then when I went back, he ended up accepting my offer of $35 for this. So this is a Rohm, R-O-H-M, which I believe is a German company. I've seen some Rohm chucks. So it's not, I don't think it's, Germany. MK4 taper. So this is a live center for a lathe. And the deal with this is, when I looked online, apparently there are several different possible tips you can put into this. There are no tips in the box, so I don't know if it doesn't come with tips and you have to buy those separately or what the deal is. But I do know that these are pretty darn expensive, new. So, like several $100. I think they're like $400 new. So I'm not sure how old this is. It seems like it's either new old stock or it's either never been used or used hardly at all, because it's clean as a whistle. Turns free. Yeah, I don't know. Just a few scratches in the back here, but so kind of took a chance on this. Hopefully I'll be able to sell this for a little profit, and it won't end up being a situation where I lost my shirt. So this next grouping of stuff right here, and all of the stuff in this bag, which I'm going to get out in a second, this was all in a bin and an old wooden toolbox that was in really rough shape. I went through all the drawers, pulled out everything that I wanted, and pulled out everything in this bin that I wanted, put it all together in one lot, and got it for $11. Initially, what I spotted in here that caught my eye were these little weird things right here. So there's a whole bunch of these in here. And what these are these are replacement fingers for a tap extractor set that I have. Alright, so I took a few minutes and I weeded out everything from the pile that is related to the Walton tap extractors. And so these are the bodies right here of several of them. These are the fingers, these are the sleeves, and these are the collars. So this is my Walton tap extractor set that I got a little while back. And there's some really small ones in here too, but I'll grab one of the large ones so you can just kind of see the anatomy of it more clearly, in case you've never seen one before. But the way it works is, say you break off a tap down in the hole, what you do is you find the appropriate tap extractor, move this sleeve down, that releases these fingers, slide the fingers out, okay, and then these fingers will slide down around the flutes of the broken tap piece. And then you tighten the collar, and then you put a wrench on the top here and you turn it. And literally these 4 fingers reach down into the hole right around the tap and allow you to actually unscrew the broken piece. So, pretty handy. Must be pretty well known, because even though I had never heard of them until I got this one and looked it up, You look online, you can find plenty of them. So what I got to do right now is I got to figure out how many of these I want to keep, and then I'll just put the rest in a pile. But here are like instructions that were with these, so that's how I knew that what they were. I thought the fingers looked familiar, and then I was looking around more. I looked in the box and ended up finding a whole bunch of sleeves, collars, and bodies. So whatever sizes I don't have in my set, I will keep for myself. I'll keep some extra fingers, and then the rest of it I'll just put together as a little lot and sell to somebody for a really good price. I noticed that some of these are for 4 flute, and I just had one here. That's for a 3 flute. Also, in the end, I was able to make 4 complete extra tap extractors. I've got some here that don't have any fingers. These are extra fingers I'm going to keep of this size. These I'll be able to put this lot here. And then these big ones, I had a lot of these. I was able to add a few sizes and styles to my set. Seeing what else is in this random pile of stuff. These are all the punches I just pulled out. These are just some regular old punches, but I'm curious about these right here. There's a whole bunch of these. That's a Union 632nd. Whole bunch of these right here, and they're unmarked. Huh. That's a Starrett. That's a really early one. Well used. Interesting little design on that one. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody made these as a shop project. I wonder if anybody's willing to give me $1 a piece for these. I decided to post these punches 2 for $1. And I was wondering how many would sell today, and or before I finished shooting this video. And I didn't even get a chance to put them away yet, and somebody already bought 4 of them. So, hey, are the Stones on tour this year? They're right here. Just some random little sharpening stones. Always handy to have. This is interesting. This is actually a diamond. 320 grit and 150 grit on a little metal handle. Pile of needle files, also known as Swiss pattern files. Few of these are marked Nicholson. The majority of them are marked XF, so I'm not sure who that manufacturer is. Well, let's see what we got left here. It's kind of just a metal clip. A bunch of these little metal pieces almost look like halves of rivets. I don't know. Probably never going to know what those are. It's a shank from a screwdriver. Looks like it was an end mill or drill that was ground down. There's a random piece of metal there. Kind of a homemade clamp. Cheesy level. That's a string level. Hooked that on a chalk line. An Empire 24E level. I don't know what this is. This says hard steel on it. Hard steel. That's a little attachment for an indicator. You put that on a drop indicator and it converts the drop indicator to a, take a reading at 90 degrees. This just says .025 saw. So I don't know if that came off of a bandsaw, blade guard maybe. There's a, most likely a Starrett hole tool. That's for reaching into a bore. I don't see any markings on that one, and it looks like it's a little roughed up at the edge there. This is a really nice little Billings wrench. The Billings and Spencer Company. 1111 3/8 OC, 1/4 inch US. Glass cutter. A burr on a long shank. Couple of end mills. 4 of these very sharp pins with kind of a end on it that looks like this should be almost like these were made to go into the legs on a compass or something, like a drafting compass. Just a long metal rod, a pack of thumbtacks that have little flowers on them. There was one set of parallels in there, AWJ. And then I found this AWJ marked planer gauge. Unfortunately, none of the attachments were with it. It's just a planer gauge. This number 462 Williams adjustable spanner wrench. Little tap wrench. It's actually a nice little tap wrench. That's a Butterfield number 8. In great shape. Then I found this rod. You know, it definitely looks like it was made for a surface gauge. Kind of looks like a knockoff of a stirrup, but it's completely unmarked, unfortunately. And there was no surface gauge to be found in those boxes. And then we got a bunch of leafs for feeler gauges. A lot of these are just loose, but then in these envelopes, it's brand new Starrett feeler stock. That's good. Alright. At another dealer, I picked up this tap wrench for $2. This is a GT&D, so that's a Greenfield tap and die number 4. So that's a good deal for $2. And another dealer, I found this Starrett last word, and I had never seen one that looked like this, the way that this design is with the bezel. Looks different. And this is a 10ths model, but it's a 711 T1. So 711-T1. So it's a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing. And it seems to be working fine. It's actually pretty clean. Seems to be working fine. Got some scratches on the crystal, but otherwise, pretty good. Alright, so that's going to bring this to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.